In a lineup of sitcoms featuring the young, Golden Girls stands out as an original, showing that humor is truly ageless.
It's the first time it's been presented in this manner. I mean, every other show that's had older people, I was going to say elderly.
Bite your tongue.
Remember, it was all stereotypical.
It's a recipe that works. You know how the ingredients are right. We're all just lucky. It's just all come together right. There are four nice ladies who would be nice to visit a half hour once a week. We'd like to just kind of hang out with them for a little while. And it's nice to know that you can be that age and not have just lost all appeal to anybody for spending a half hour once a week.
Battle of the Network shows. Join Rick Brooks and Mike Kogel as they explore the TV of the 70s and 80s through hand-picked episodes of their favorite and not-so-favorite series.
Welcome to another episode of Battle of the Network shows. I'm Mike, and today we're going to be talking about The Golden Girls, a classic sitcom of the 80s and into the 90s, actually.
Yeah, something a little different, I think, than some of the things we've been talking about, but...
Yeah, different in one way that it's an actual a show from NBC's successful era.
Yes.
And quite a success on its own. You know, one part of that success.
Both of those things are very true indeed, yes.
Yeah.
So, happier days of NBC today.
That's right. When NBC, what was their slogan at the time?
Around this time, in the mid-'80s.
Yeah.
NBC, thank God we have Bill Cosby. I don't know.
That sounds right, yeah.
I mean, they had the Let's All Be There in
Let's
the
All Be,
mid-'80s.
yeah.
That might have been around the time of this.
What network was the place to be?
The place to be?
Yeah.
I think that was NBC too, wasn't it? Or was that ABC? I think it was NBC.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm actually remembering the jingle for the Let's All Be There.
Uh-huh.
That's kind of in my head now, but
Yeah.
it's crowding out any other possible slogan, so
Okay.
I'm going to say Let's All Be There.
Yeah.
Well, the episode we're looking at is from the second season too, so that would be about, I think this is 1986.
86, yeah. And I can imagine all the Golden Girls like lip syncing to that song, or maybe just in like pointing.
Yeah.
Let's all be there.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, because for a while they had that campaign where they'd show the thing, and then they'd come up with like Michael Landon saying "Be there," you know, after they do the little ad.
Exactly.
So I think the Golden Girls might have caught the tail end of that "Let's All Be There" campaign. But
Yeah, maybe even a funny one with Sophia like being rude about it.
yes, that I could definitely see that as well.
Yeah. Did you happen to read the secret origin of the show?
The secret origin of the show?
Yeah.
I'm not sure
or
that
just the origin, because it has something to do with some of this kind of promotional stuff in a way.
I'm not sure I follow.
I don't know if it was a promotional show that they showed or they just did like for their affiliates, but Doris Roberts from Remington Steele and another older woman
Okay.
whose name I'm suddenly forgetting, did like a bit at the beginning called Miami Nice.
Miami Nice.
Like a comedic, and Warren Littlefield got a kick out of seeing old ladies being funny. And so he sort of pitched this idea to the eventual producers of the Golden Girls.
Mm-hmm.
And then one of them pitched it to Susan Harris, who ended up writing the show, even though she was about to retire from writing.
She was lured back in. Such a great concept.
She liked the idea. It was something that hadn't been explored, really, on TV.
Especially like in a comedic setting.
Right.
Where they weren't just like the comic relief or, the sassy mother-in-law. This was like four sassy older women.
That's right. And we're saying, I was saying old, really older, but I mean, I feel like the characters are, most of them are a little younger than I thought or remembered. Well, they're all, at least in the early seasons, working.
Yeah.
Except for the mother, Sophia, who's 80.
Right. And she's partly there to provide contrast, I think, too.
Yeah,
right?
I did
like,
read that.
Make them seem younger.
Yeah.
Which is funny.
Somewhere I saw that it said, someone quoted saying it made them look like girls by having an older
It's
figure.
funny. I love the concept of somebody getting cold feet already. The very premise of the show. And say, well, wait a minute. We can't have people like thinking these are a bunch of old broads. We have to have somebody older
Right.
to make them look younger.
Yep.
But at least it's better than, providing like a teenage, niece or something that conveniently always showed up and had storylines with the rest of them in every episode. So
Right. The pilot had another character.
yes, the Coco.
Coco.
We hardly knew you, Coco.
Yeah.
Coco didn't last past the pilot, did he?
No.
Yes, Coco was. I guess he was supposed to be the live-in chef.
Yeah.
And like, it seemed like general like house manager or something like that. It seemed
Right.
like he did more than just be the chef. But I'd totally forgotten about him until I rewatched that pilot and it's like, oh, Coco.
Right.
Where'd this guy go?
Yeah. Apparently Sophia wasn't supposed to be a regular, and she tested through the roof, and so they made her a regular. And also, I guess they spend so much time in the kitchen that it would have been weird if they're having all these conversations in the kitchen while
That makes sense.
while someone else is cooking their meals.
Well, see, that's a good note. Whoever figured that out, that makes sense. Yes.
Yeah.
So, I mean, just the basic premise of the show is you've got 4 single, women of a certain age living in Miami, sharing this house together. There's Blanche, the man-hungry Southern belle.
Right. And two of them are widows, so she's a widow.
Yes.
Who I think I had like 6 kids or something.
Yeah, and that's and Blanche was played by Rue McClanahan.
Yeah.
Then Betty White was Rose.
Right.
She was famously Norwegian descent
Right.
from St. Olaf in Minnesota, I guess.
Yeah. And sort of guileless, is that a word?
Yes, that's a great way to describe her.
Right. Also a widow.
Yes, also a widow.
Yeah.
And then you have Dorothy Zbornak, who is divorced.
Yeah.
Her husband and frequent nemesis, Stan, by veteran character actor Herb Edelman. One of my favorites. He shows up a lot during the series and always causes some kind of hijinks. But Dorothy is the sardonic one.
Yeah.
I guess the most practical minded. She's like a teacher. I guess mostly a substitute teacher, right?
Yeah.
At least at the beginning of the show, and she's played by B. Arthur, or Beatrice Arthur,
Right.
as she is known in the credits. And of course, Sophia is Dorothy's mom.
Yeah.
And she's from Sicily.
Yeah.
She'll remind you of that many times in episode, and that she was played by Estelle Getty.
Right. Who was younger by a few months than B. Arthur.
Which is something.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess she was made up.
Yeah.
But I never knew that until after the show was off the air.
I think I knew that at some point at the time, and that was
Okay.
it was like kind of a fun aspect of it.
Right.
To know. And kind of in that first episode, her makeup's it's a little off, I think.
Yeah.
But
So
they got it down. Yeah,
so
and the pilot, they had I don't know if they continued with this particular reason for her forthrightness, but they said she had a stroke that damaged the part of your brain that makes you polite.
Right. Yeah, that's kind of the excuse for it. So she always, was the most blunt of them all, even more than Dorothy. But she didn't care basically.
Right.
I don't know if they mentioned that a lot, but I think at a certain point it was just like, well, she just says it because she's old and she doesn't care.
Yeah. Right.
So they didn't bother to make the excuses, but
which was it struck me as almost like a science fiction explanation.
yeah.
It targeted the one part of her brain.
Right. Yeah.
It tells you to shut up every now and then.
Yeah. Well, I always bought into that. I didn't have a problem with that, but yeah, that is a little convenient. But
yeah,
she's definitely sassy. But that's the basic premise: is these 4 women,
right?
Bonding over these situations, and they retire to the kitchen for cheesecake and talk about men and everything. And so, groundbreaking might be a little strong a word, but it was a very popular show. It was successful. It was critically popular. It was commercially popular, and it had 4 older, middle-aged older women talking about sex and relationships and things you didn't hear them talking about, like in that kind of way on TV a lot of times.
Right, and 3 of them were very well known from other TV shows.
Correct. Yeah.
And I guess Rue McClanahan and B. Arthur were on Maude together, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And Betty White, of course, from Mary Tyler Moore and other things. And Betty White and Rue McClanahan were on Mama's Family.
Yes. So,
early years of that.
Yes, a veteran team, and the producers of the show were the ones that did Soap and Benson and all kinds of shows,
Right.
dating back to the 70s, really. So
Yeah.
So you had a lot of elements in place, and NBC put this as a Saturday night show, and that's another interesting thing. This was, again, kind of back when Saturday night was a viable night for programming.
Yeah.
And you can see why. And one of the things that kind of fascinates me about this show, and I guess we'll get into we're mentioning the pilot, but that's not the specific episode we're
Right.
talking about. But one thing that sort of interests me is, the fact that it has an enduring appeal. It's lived on and rerun since it went off the air, and I wouldn't say that I know a lot of guys that watch the show.
Yeah.
I know a lot of guys that remember it though, and
Right.
probably more than would care to admit that enjoyed
Yeah.
it. But among women, it's a multi-generational thing. I remember, older women loved it, but younger women loved it. Teenagers loved it. I've got relatives and sisters, cousins, all kinds of people that enjoy watching the show to this day
Yeah.
and like the reruns. So
Yeah. Well, in TV The Book, they made an interesting comparison. So when they wrote essays about their top 100 picks, sometimes they would pair shows together that were similar in some way, and they paired Golden Girls with Friends. And the idea being partly that Friends signaled a change, that characters were maybe not this old, but older in general on TV shows before Friends, especially in comedy. Like the idea, that pretty people could be funny those two things were antithetical, sort of.
Right.
But also that their most basic foundation is very similar. It's multiple people, or a group of people who maybe don't really have connections, but living together,
Right.
and forming friendships out of that.
Right. And
And a lot of focus on jokes.
right. And talking and exchanging not in the workplace, but in other settings. So
Yeah,
they're
but not a
not
family.
working together.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see that. And then, of course, after Friends became big, like, everybody wanted a show with young people.
Right.
Like, oh, we can have young people be funny and attractive.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, so that became the big thing. But
Right. And Golden Girls also spun off Empty Nest.
yeah, which was actually on a lot longer than you would think. I think it's one of the biggest shows as far as like most episodes that I don't think it's ever had a DVD release, and it's rarely been syndicated. Although I think it's on one of these digital sub channels right now, and it's made appearances. But Empty Nest was on 6 or 7 years, I believe, like almost as long as Golden Girls,
Right.
Which was on 7 or 8 years.
I think 8, and then the 9th as Golden Palace.
Yeah, the spinoff that was on the ill-fated
Right.
CBS spinoff that.
And at least one thing I read said it really just ended because B. Arthur wanted to end it. Or
That
she
seems
was
logical.
done, which is what happened with Maude, too.
Yeah, B. Arthur didn't show up for Golden Palace. It was everybody.
Yeah.
You gain Don Cheadle and Cheech Marin, but you lose B. Arthur, and I don't know if that really works.
No.
I don't think it did really.
Yeah.
So.
Her character got married off to Leslie Nielsen,
Yes.
who was some sort of relative of Blanche's.
So, but the Golden Girls. Point is, the Golden Girls did have a great run while it was on the air. It was very popular, still popular today, and I didn't really. I mean, I didn't. It wasn't appointment viewing, but I definitely watched it sometimes when it was on, and
Yeah.
it was more something like other people wanted to watch. But
Right.
I enjoy it, and I mainly for B. Arthur, but I think the show is still funny.
Yeah, I remember watching it like when it first came on, and maybe the first few years, and then I was old enough to drive.
Yeah.
Get out of the house on a Saturday night.
Right. Well, at some
And
point,
it was on, Facts of Life at some point was on in
Yeah.
that group of comedies, I think.
Yeah. Well, that's I think the first year.
Yeah.
It was like Golden Girls was like started out at 9 o'clock on Saturdays, but that
Right.
first year was like the tail end of Facts of Life.
Yeah.
So there was some crossover. Like they seem like shows from two different eras of
Right.
NBC, like we're talking about, but there was a little bit more crossover than I might have expected. So
Yeah. And they do have the similarity of 4, Facts of Life had 5 women technically, but, group being mostly about women, which still was kind of rare even when Golden Girls started, I think.
well, I'll tell you what, I'm gonna praise this show by tearing down another show, which is
Okay.
always the best way to make the best way to compliment anything
Uh-huh.
is to demean something else. I've learned over
Sure.
the years. Take a similar show, or one that you might think is similar from this time frame that maybe we'll cover it someday. Designing Women
Yeah.
is a show that I do not find holds up very well.
Right.
To me, it's phony. Like they're speaking in sitcom rhythms on Golden Girls, but it seems like it flows naturally, and even if it's more joke centric, I buy into everything. Whereas Designing Women, it looks to me like these women are like they're standing around, they're making these zingers,
Right.
and it's all in the service of just being funny characters as opposed to being real characters. And that's even before you get into like the political stuff that the show got into. So
Right.
Designing Women is something I really don't have any desire to watch today. Whereas Golden Girls, it's like, oh, hey, this is available now for streaming. Cool. I'll sit down and watch it. And it's still entertaining.
I'm trying to think if like the dynamics of those characters were similar. They didn't. I guess some of them had various pieces of.
Yeah. Well, you had a naive one.
Yeah.
You had
Kind of a
the
dumb one.
Yeah. Well, maybe that's what I was thinking of, the naive one.
That's where I'm getting. There's Charlene, who was was from the country, and could be kind of naive, I think.
Right. Well,
But she was definitely smart.
like,
She's a country smart.
yeah. I mean, I guess if you had the easy way would be like Delta Burke would be the Rue McClanahan equivalent.
Yeah.
Dixie Carter would be the B. Arthur,
Right.
and
They didn't have an Annie Potts equivalent on Golden Girls, I don't think.
no,
Like, I think.
and they didn't really have a Sophia equivalent on. I mean, I guess
No.
Delta Burke was sort of like a combination of
Yeah.
yeah.
With a little bit of Rose's. Rose is a little bit dim sometimes.
She is. Well, I would say she's supposed to be a total moron.
Yeah.
Let's just call it as it is.
Okay.
And they treat her like she's a total
Yes.
moron.
Yeah.
And but not in a malicious way, but
No. It's.
and that's a lot of the humor, isn't a lot of the funny, and that's the episode that we're going to talk about does not have a whole lot of. One of my favorite things in Golden Girls is when Dorothy just leans over and goes, "Shut up, Rose,"
Right.
because she's frustrated at her.
And even it doesn't even have like a lot of like just B. Arthur staring off while Rose says something dumb.
Yes.
Like the pilot had a couple of those like kind of slow burn moments. But it really is like I really admire that because B. Arthur's really not doing a lot, but it's just enough that
Right.
you can read a whole lot into it.
Yeah, and as a matter of fact, like I think one of my favorite B. Arthur moments is in this episode is just she doesn't say a word, but it's
Yeah.
just her reaction to an insult that somebody else gets. So
Right.
Sophia gets the line. I think it was Sophia's line, but I mean Dorothy just reacts to it and just kind of like roll like whoa, what is that supposed to and it's hilarious just looking at her. So
Yeah.
for me, B. Arthur was the star of the show, but everybody was excellent in their roles.
Yeah.
I never the Sophia character. I always found her kind of annoying. Like of the four, she was like the
Right.
least realistic and the most like sitcom-y to me. But
I think when I was a kid, she was hilarious,
yeah,
and maybe because I had a cranky grandmother. So
yeah,
and Blanche kind of bothered me.
yeah.
I don't know.
Well, I like Blanche more as a chance to set up like the others and stuff
Yeah.
like that. So I guess I kind of enjoyed that. Now I really enjoy like Betty White more today because we know Betty White is such a sharp person and so intelligent that
Yeah.
it makes you and just some of the other roles that she was playing like total the opposite of guileless on shows like her Mary Tyler Moore
Right.
universe character, whatever. It just makes you appreciate what a great performance this is.
But that's another bit of trivia. Originally, they wanted her to play Blanche and Rue McClanahan to play Rose, and neither of them was quite interested because they had already done that. I guess the character Rue McClanahan plays a Maud is kind of more like Rose, and so once they switched, they were on board.
And the rest is history.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, that's good. And talking about like the talents of the cast and everything, this show got Emmy nominations and wins, and I think they all won.
Yeah.
They all won awards. They were all recognized. So I don't know if there's a lot of jealousy on the cast. I mean, I guess there was some friction over the years and things like that.
Apparently, yeah.
It doesn't show up on camera. They've got excellent chemistry. Especially the three core ones, but with Sophia too worked well with them. So I mean, I think that's a good overview of Golden Girls. But the specific episode we're talking about is from the second season, and it's got another one of our favorites.
Yeah, I have a bit of a meta thought on this. So we'll get to who this person is, but his name, the possibility of meeting this person in the show is like the inciting incident that makes everything happen. And in the same way, it was the inciting incident that made us, I think, choose the episode. Although the rest of the description is pretty interesting too.
Yes.
It certainly, I would say, pushed it to the top.
Yes, I think that's fair to say.
Yeah.
This was an episode that I actually did remember watching it, or
kinda.
maybe in reruns. I mean,
Yeah.
again, it was notoriously, Lifetime was pretty much nothing but Golden Girls reruns for about 10 years. So,
Right.
so these episodes have been in circulation. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah.
But this particular one was October 4th, 1986 on the NBC television network, and the episode title is Ladies of the Evening.
Already sounds a little edgy.
Yes, one can imagine.
Yeah.
I guess should we just run down
Yeah.
what happened, or should we announce who the special guests are, or should we do it like Blanche does?
I think we should say it like, Mr. Burt Reynolds.
Yes. Which, just the mention of his name, basically Blanche wins a raffle.
Yeah.
She gets tickets for her and two of her friends. Note that number 2, not 3. 2 of her friends, 2 of her best friends, to go see the premiere of Burt's new movie.
Yeah. I wish they had named the movie.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Me too. I didn't actually check to see what might have fit in the time frame. What Burt classic this could have conceivably been, but because he had his little hiatus from movies for a while.
Cop and a half.
Yeah, that might. And the possibility to meet Burt afterwards, I guess, at this gala premiere event.
Yeah.
So the girls squeal with delight
and jump
up and down. Yeah,
right.
I mean it's something to see. B. Arthur squealing with glee. That's not something you see every day, actually.
No.
So they're all excited, but of course Sophia's upset right away because she's left out.
Right.
And because she's kind of assuming that she's going to be part of it, and she's kind of celebrating, and they basically tell her, "You're not going, Sophia."
Right. There's no even discussion.
Yeah. And
she wants to draw cards or something.
Right. And Blanche has a good point. She shouldn't be. She's got the tickets, so Blanche shouldn't.
She's automatic.
Right. She should be. And
she wanted. I don't know if this was in the rules of the winning, but the way she described it, it was for her and her 2 best friends.
Yes.
And I think, no offense, Sophia, but you're not.
Yeah.
You're not her best friend.
Right.
You're her best friend's mom who had to move in because her retirement home burned down.
Right. And your relationship with her consists of basically making disparaging comments about her lack of moral character.
Yeah.
And her lack of, shall we say, selectivity with men.
Right.
Is basically the interactions they have. So.
Yeah. And she owns the house.
Yeah. Yeah. I think chickens are coming home to roost, Sophia. So.
I think so. Now, if Sophia hears us saying that, she might put a hex on us.
Yeah, she might. She might indeed. But so at the same time, that there's an infestation. They have to get the house tented for termites. Right. So they have to go to the hotel. They have to get a nice hotel.
Yeah.
And make a weekend of it.
Right.
To get out of the house. And so now this is kind of unfair to Sophia because she has to be dragged along to this hotel and basically just sit in the hotel while they go to this event. So that's kind of a bummer for her.
Yeah, that is. But they can't afford a big hotel.
So they think.
A fancy hotel.
But Blanche says, well, she'll find them one.
Yeah.
And find them when she does.
Yep.
And she finds them in a hotel that she basically picked because she was impressed by it because there were so many men, like single men, hanging around in the lobby.
Yeah.
So she found an affordable hotel, which turns out to be basically a front for a prostitution ring.
Yeah.
Like the hotel manager.
Yeah, she didn't notice all the
the
strangely dressed women.
Yes. They're hanging out, in their formal best.
Right.
Get ready to make a night of it and see this Burt movie. And
Sophia's upstairs.
Yes, and they meet some men who basically want to buy them a drink and sit down with them, and the men think they're there for one thing, and the women don't quite get it at first.
Right. Yeah.
And about the time Dorothy realizes what's going on is when there's a bust, and the police storm the place and announce that everybody in there is under arrest.
That lead cop was pretty awesome.
Yeah.
He had one great line, and he really delivered it with gusto.
Oh, but it's the same one. I may have written down that line.
I bet you did. I think you should.
Well, okay, if it's what I'm thinking about, Dorothy, I think it's when Dorothy is trying to talk her way out of it, but she's making it worse because she kind of he basically thinks that she's propositioning him,
Right.
But she explains why they're actually there, to see this Burt Reynolds movie, and
Yeah.
he says to her, "Don't you dare drag Burt's good name into this." He doesn't say, Burt Reynolds. He says, "Don't you dare drag Burt's good name into this."
Right. Yeah. To a Southern belle, it's Mr. Burt Reynolds.
Yes.
To a guy, it's Burt.
Yeah. Well, he's an icon, and let's face it. Not only is he a film icon, he's a Florida icon.
That's
Burt
right.
Reynolds is Florida, especially in the '80s.
Yeah.
That was Burt's town.
Right.
The whole state was his town.
Yeah.
From Pensacola to Miami, from Fort Lauderdale to Fort Myer.
Burt and the Burt Pack.
Yeah, they were roaming all over the Sunshine State.
Yeah.
The women wind up in the clink.
Yeah.
Trying to get this sorted out, and they bond sort of with all the other the real prostitutes who are there.
After a little tension.
There's some tension, yes. There's almost a rumble.
Call them trash.
Yeah. Yeah, Blanche, I believe, was the one that called them trash, right?
Yeah. And one of the prostitutes wants to have a fight with her. And Dorothy uses her teaching skills.
Yes.
Claims she was in Attica.
Yeah. And then so wait, Attica was men's prison.
Yeah. And it took them a year to figure out.
Yeah. Dorothy says exactly. It took them a year to find out.
Yeah.
So, but basically, Dorothy stares her down, and then she backs off, like the
Right.
main instigator of this potential rumble.
Yeah.
So,
And we learn about Rose's losing the Butter Queen.
Yeah. Rose
Preparing her whole life to be the Butter Queen.
Yeah.
There was something involving churning.
Yeah.
I sort of, I think I had the same reaction as Dorothy and Blanche and kind of zoned out at some point.
Yeah, like Dorothy
Right.
asked Blanche if she's been listening to this.
Yeah.
Like bit by bit or something.
Right.
A little bit at a time.
A little bit.
Yeah, it wasn't to highlight, but it gives Rose something to do, and basically Rose is explaining why how she's had disappointment, and everything, and
Yeah.
her life's been tough.
That's right.
I guess. So.
And it's exasperating to Dorothy, so
Yes.
thumbs up.
Yeah. It's all good with you. Huh?
Yeah.
So Sophia comes down to bail them out.
Yep.
Holding the tickets,
Right.
and
Well-
essentially.
Blanche has the tickets. I don't know why they didn't confiscate them.
Oh, that's right. Yes.
Because
Yes.
Sophia, she's holding them through the bars, and Sophia snatches them away.
That's right. Yes. So Sophia, gives them a chance to negotiate which ones will go with her.
Right.
And when they kind of are insistent on the original arrangement, Sophia just bails or just leaves. She bails them, but she bails on them too.
Right. Yeah.
And walks out and leaves them in jail, which is pretty funny.
Yeah.
Again, now at this point, what do you feel about the situational ethics of this situation? Sophia came down to bail them out.
Yeah.
If you were in that spot, would you have sacrificed your spot? I mean, it's Burt Reynolds, so probably not. But say somebody else, say like a more B-list star, like
Say if Burt weren't going to be there, but some of his other guests were going to be there.
right.
Which, we found out who Dom DeLuise,
Ooh,
Lonnie Anderson,
ooh.
Charles Nelson Riley.
Yeah, exactly.
Uh,
That's a bit they did in the show,
Yeah,
folks,
that's,
and I actually laughed out loud at that.
yeah, that was good.
Blanche is reading or they're reading the names of who's
Yeah.
going to be there, and the other girls react.
But
with,
Rose is reading it, yeah.
Yeah.
And
For Charles Nelson Riley.
I know.
What a pro. What a pro.
So, say Dom DeLuise were the top person there.
Yeah.
I probably could have sacrificed my ticket.
Yeah. What about, say, Charles Durning? If Charles Durning... if
that would be tougher.
Another Burt Packer.
Yeah.
He was doing like a one-man show. Charles Durning. That's my evening shade, Charles
Your
Durning.
evening shade / Muppet movie.
Yeah. Yeah. Charles Durning might be a little tougher choice, but I think reasonable people could see that one differently. I mean, if Sophia comes down to bail you out,
Yeah.
maybe you could thank her,
Right.
but the girls didn't see it that way, did they?
Her daughter could have thanked her.
Yeah.
Now, Rose and Dorothy could have turned on Blanche
Right.
who we agree deserves to be there because she won the tickets, but she also chose the hotel full of prostitutes.
Right. Yeah, that was definitely poor form on her part.
Yeah.
I think Rose had the least convincing argument. Rose's argument was basically that she had lost this Miss Butterqueen thing.
Right, yeah.
So Rose probably should have been given the boot on that one. Dorothy, I mean, it was her mother that bailed him out.
Right.
Blanche, it was the one that made it all possible.
Yeah.
So, but the bottom line is Sophia gets to go to the event, and they
Right.
don't.
Yeah.
And then at the end, Sophia's telling them all about it back at their house.
Yeah.
And what a great time, and how she charmed, I guess, the entirety of the Burt Pack.
It sounds like it, including Jerry Reed.
Yeah, Jerry Reed.
Some story. She had some wild story that Dom DeLuise made her tell
Yeah,
to Burt and to Jerry Reed.
yeah.
Yeah. Who, she also mentioned she was eating a giant shrimp out of Jerry Reed's hands.
Yeah, that's that's interesting.
Yeah. The way, and she did a hand gesture that made it look like it was a shrimp like the size of a football.
Yeah. I
Or
mean,
maybe not. Her hands is probably small, but
Jerry Reed's hands aren't small.
no, it was definitely a big, like a shrimp, like a lobster-sized shrimp. Let's
Yeah, and she doesn't say like a shrimp cocktail. She says
No.
like a shrimp.
say. A shrimp.
Yeah, so some giant prawn, you know,
Right.
is
Maybe imported from Australia or
yeah.
something.
I don't know. Maybe it was all Jerry Reed could do to hang on to the thing. I guess maybe it
Yeah.
was still wriggling out of his hand, or I don't know.
Maybe he had delivered a whole truckload of them cross country
Yeah, right.
in a time-sensitive manner.
Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, while singing about it,
Yeah,
narrating his entire story on the way.
that could very well be the case.
But by the way, the ladies don't they don't believe her. They don't think she actually went to this thing.
Well, Sophia does have
Or at least they're acting.
penchant to embellish,
Yeah,
so I can't blame them for being a little skeptical.
yeah. They're definitely put out. The doorbell rings, and I thought, well, here it comes. Here's Burt.
Yeah.
And it wasn't Burt the first time. So when they're in lockup, Rose bonded with one of the prostitutes who was from St. Gustav,
Something like that. Yeah, something similar
a
sounding.
neighboring town.
Yeah, sister city or whatever.
And said if she ever needed someone to come talk to her. So she actually shows up at the door, and she's decided to go home,
Yeah,
back to Minnesota.
right. Which makes Rose happy.
Yeah.
This episode is very anti-prostitution, I should say.
It seems to be.
It doesn't really have a balanced view of prostitution.
No, and in fact, they don't use they use the more colloquial term, hooker.
Yes, hooking. Yeah, yeah. And it's very unfair to prostitutes. It's very unfair to Johns as well.
That's
Because
right.
if you think about it, the three guys that
Those guys are awful.
which is funny. Those guys are great because they show up and they're really excited to see
Yeah.
the Golden Girls. They're like, they
Yeah.
think they've hit the jackpot.
They like zero in on them. Maybe they think they're going to get a deal.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know. They just zero in on them.
I mean, it's not like
they seem to be in their like
one
if
guy
I saw
was wearing
that.
a piece, wasn't he?
Yeah, I think so. Like the sort of lead guy. If I saw him now, I would think he was maybe in his 60s.
Yeah, yeah.
But even back then, people looked older.
Right, but they seemed younger than the girls, though.
Yeah, that was the impression I got. That maybe they're in their 40s
Well, maybe
or early 50s.
when they're having their comic misunderstandings in the
Yeah.
conversation, one of the things is like, you know, the experience that the girls have. Like
Right.
they say, Dorothy's been working for 30 years.
Yeah.
So they, she must really know what she's doing.
That's right. And Blanche says, "Oh, everyone says she's the best teacher." And
So, like-
they're from Kenosha.
Well, maybe that is supposed to
And
explain part of it.
The guy says, and one of the guys' name is John, and Rose is like, "I know a John from Kenosha."
Yeah.
And this guy Carl, he's like the creep of the.
Yeah.
I mean, they're all creeps, but
Ah.
he's the real creep.
Aw.
And he's like, "I bet you know a lot of Johns."
Yeah. Yeah, like in a normal like hotel bar setting, you could see three guys might maybe zero in on the ones that they think are attainable in a certain situation, but this is a hotel full of prostitutes that are sanctioned by the management,
Right.
so that's not an issue here.
They're all attainable.
Yeah, so these three guys are like, whoa, you know, they
Yeah.
like the one guy, their leader, basically makes the first move, and then he kind of summons the other two. Like, I don't know if he literally snaps his fingers, but he summons them, and they come like straight away, and they're all excited. So I don't know. This wasn't exactly a nuanced view of prostitution,
No.
but I just wanted to say that you know, for the record, if anybody's worried, this episode I think takes a strong moral stance against prostitution.
Yes. Yeah.
and against soliciting prostitutes, I believe, as
Right.
well.
I mean,
although
the
it
prostitutes...
is a bit of a double standard. They
yeah,
don't
go
show
ahead.
the guys in jail.
No, but they did get busted. I mean,
Yeah.
it was a raid.
Yeah, they did too. Yeah.
And they do let the prostitutes kind of speak up for themselves. I mean, like, they don't want to be called trash, and the girl from St. Gustav gets a little miffed. Like, the idea that, she's chosen to do this, and she doesn't feel bad about it. But then I guess she does.
Then she changes her mind, yeah. Like, well,
She
no.
thinks about, oh, no, this is kind of gross.
I never had anybody explain it to me like that before.
Wait, men are paying?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, suddenly, this doesn't seem like such a great career move. Oh, well.
Anyway, the doorbell rings again,
Yes.
and this time, it's Burt.
Yeah, and the
Classic.
real Burt Reynolds.
Yes.
Full head of hair,
Gum, chewing gum.
mustache as thick as the day is long,
Yep.
slightly tanned, but not ridiculously so, I think.
Yeah.
Looking good.
Shirt open enough to see the hair on his chest.
Yep. He is Burt.
Smirking.
Yep. Supremely confident, owning the room as soon as he walks into it. Yep, it's quintessential Burt Reynolds.
It is. It's of course the audience is going nuts. And
Yeah.
So he gets to stand there and just look around and chew gum. And,
Yeah, and just kind of soak it in a little
Yeah.
bit. Like, yep, it's me. Yeah,
which
yeah.
just seemed like reiterated how perfect Norm Macdonald's Burt Reynolds impression.
Yeah, it really is.
Because it
yeah.
really looked like at least the way when he showed up in that 40th anniversary special. Because he got more. I think he got more applause than he normally would have. But that he
Right.
had to stand there and just look around and chew.
Right. Yeah, this is Burt as celebrity,
Yeah.
and it's well utilized. And of course, so the girls are there. Their mouths their jaws drop, and
Right.
they're stunned. Of course, overwhelmed by seeing Burt Reynolds, who's there to take Sophia to lunch.
Yeah.
And she just goes, "Hey, how you doing?" And just walks up, and clearly Sophia was telling the truth. And
Yeah.
Burt, well, should we give the punchline?
I guess so. Yeah. I'll let you.
Well, Burt says to Sophia, Burt says these must be your roommates, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like, he kind of leans down. Which one's the slut?
Right.
And
They all
raise their hand. I am. All eager,
Right.
stretching out.
And they leave. Sophia and Burt leave, and they just the last shot just lingers on them standing there
Yeah, just
with their arms raised.
awestruck.
Uh,
Yeah, Burt Reynolds. Man,
yeah.
it is his peak Burtness, I would say. Not career-wise necessarily, but as far as Burt as celebrity, this is probably around the time of maybe just before Win, Lose, or Draw, maybe, or maybe right around that time.
Right. Yeah.
So kind of transitioning to, just Burt, not the major movie star on his own,
Yeah.
but Burt the star, and kind of transitioning towards television and things like that.
Right.
Returning to television, I should say.
Yeah.
Beale Stryker was probably a couple years off, maybe, I'm
Oh,
guessing.
that's right. Yeah. And that predates Evening Shade.
Yes, I believe it does.
Okay.
Yeah. Evening Shade, unfortunately, I think is outside our timeline, folks.
Right.
If you want us to talk about Evening Shade, we've given you a little tease.
Yeah.
Burt Reynolds, Charles Durning. Write in and give us some support for our 90s podcast spin-off.
Right.
But, so overall, a pretty solid episode. And I bet this is probably one of the more memorable episodes of the show. I mean,
Yeah.
the girls get accused of being prostitutes. How can you go wrong, right?
Right. I mean, talking a lot about Burt, but really, the episode. I mean, he's barely in it, and if there had been some other contrivance that made this happen, I think it would have been a great episode anyway.
Yeah.
Like Burt just gives it like the 6-star,
Right.
or a 5-star rating.
Yes. He definitely elevated for me. Like, I don't know if as far as like, it's not as, like I mentioned, it's not as much as like the intra-group zingers
Right.
as it usually is.
Yeah.
It doesn't have like a big scene of them bonding over cheesecake. It
Right.
kind of takes them out of the house a little bit. It's a little different in that way, but it's definitely, it has its moments. It has a humorous premise, and it delivers on that one, I
Yeah.
guess.
Very funny. And I did. I mean, just again, we mentioned the pilot episode, and I mean, I thought pretty much it was one of those first episodes that's the show.
Yeah, I think I totally agree.
Like
they
other than
hit
Coco.
it. Other than getting rid of Coco, and it's it's interesting that Sophia was not intended to be. You would never know that watching the pilot.
No.
It seems like, okay, this is how they introduce her, and then
Yep.
she's going to be there and add something to this. So, yeah, I mean, it was pretty much fully formed from the beginning, and it was a very popular show. I mean, we said it was successful, but we're talking like a top 10 show.
Yeah.
On Saturday nights, NBC. So unlike, I think half of the NBC lineup was popular because of Cosby's show around this time.
Yeah.
Golden Girls was pretty much anchoring, at 9 p.m. It was like their Saturday hit. So
Right.
props to them.
Yeah.
And I should mention, let me just mention just for the record, the line that the slam on Dorothy that gave the reaction that I liked.
Okay.
And you have to see it, but the line is, "Jealousy is a sick thing, Dorothy, and so are you in anything backless."
Right.
And it's just
She's
B.
like
Arthur
puzzling over it.
just kind of like, what? I mean, not exactly appalled, but just kind of like, what, just. And she kind of looks around. It's perfect. So
Yeah.
I got my share of B. Arthur moments and Beatrice Arthur moments in this episode. So
Yeah.
no complaints from me.
No.
Florida. And that's another thing too. It's sort of the flip side of the coin. I mean, you said it with the Miami Nice, but Miami Vice was very popular and very buzzy right now.
Right.
And the Miami Nice thing, that's kind of why it's so funny. I mean, this is kind of definitely the more genteel side of Florida, where every now and then you might have a not necessarily a hard drug reference, but you might have some references on the Golden Girls. But certainly a more benign view of the great state of Florida on the Golden Girls,
Yeah.
right? And also a show where the setting of Florida is essential to the actual show itself, right?
Right. And I think, they just Burt being there, of course, but they use a lot of or they make a lot of jokes just about how many elderly people are there,
Right.
which is certainly true.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to look up who the other person in that story was.
Oh, the pair to Doris Roberts.
Yeah.
Boy, can you imagine how history would... So they did decide not to go with Doris Roberts.
Right. Well, no, she was busy at the time.
Oh, with Remington Steele.
Just
she
this
was actually
bit.
on Remington Steele.
Yeah.
Doris Roberts, who would have been a youngish, mid-60s back then?
Probably.
Spring chicken.
Yeah. Hang on.
I don't know who else... it's hard. It's impossible to think of anybody else in these roles now, but it'd be interesting to think of who else might have been considered for some of these parts.
Selma Diamond.
Oh, Selma Diamond.
Yeah.
Wow. Who tragically passed away 5 minutes after that presentation.
Right.
So she was automatically ruled out.
From, Night Court.
Yeah. Okay, so Doris Roberts and
Yeah.
Selma Diamond. Okay, thanks. Well,
Yeah.
I
Doris
mean-
Roberts would have been 1925, and that was 1984. So it's like 60, right?
when Doris Roberts was born.
I looked it up.
Oh, okay. Sorry, you're looking right at.
Yeah.
He's looking right at it. He's doing research, folks.
Right.
There's nothing wrong with knowing when Doris Roberts was born, but I did.
Selma
find the word.
Diamond was but she was born in 1920. That I just knew.
Wow, so Selma Diamond was only 5 years older than Doris Roberts.
Yeah.
That I would not have guessed.
Yep.
But
And she did. She died like a year later.
okay,
That was in 1984. So
Okay.
she died in 1985.
okay. I apologize. She had a good run after
We
that.
shouldn't be laughing.
No.
Yeah.
Too soon.
Too soon.
Too soon. There's many people that haven't gotten over that rotating bailiff deal.
Coco was played by Charles Levin.
Is he still with us?
I don't know. I don't know anything about. Yeah.
Oh, good.
He's 67 now.
Yeah.
So he could be in a. Oh, he played the. He played the Moyle in the Briss episode of Seinfeld.
Really? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, I have to go back and watch that episode again.
And he was on Family Ties, Facts of Life, Falcon Crest,
Wow.
Night Court, L.A. Law, 30-something, Punky Brewster, Designing Women, Murphy Brown.
Wow.
A lot of shows. He was in Annie Hall.
But of course,
Yeah.
he makes his living today. What he makes his name for is going to those Golden Girls fan conventions and signing his name as Coco and making a lot of those Golden Girls fans happy.
Yeah. He was also in Ghostbusters and Spinal Tap.
Boy, I didn't recognize him from any of those, but
No. And The Golden Child. You probably recognize him from The Golden Child.
oh yeah, that. Oh yeah,
Right,
he's
yeah.
yeah.
He's one of the monks, right?
Well, if I were to go to a Golden Girls convention, which I never have, but I hope to someday, I would. You know what? If you went up to him, he probably might appreciate being asked about something other than Coco, because he was
Yeah.
only in the pilot. I don't know what kind of attachment he has to the franchise, but
I don't know.
hey, it's made him a lot of money, I'm sure. So
Right.
Do you think that there's like Golden Girls cosplay at these conventions, like people dressing up as their favorite Golden Girls character? Or...
I could see that happen.
Yeah.
And some people just show up and looking like that.
Yeah, that's true.
You know,
It's-
I mean,
it's
he said
easy
there's
cosplay.
a broad demographic, but I'm pretty sure they only hold those in Florida.
Yeah, like in a narrow circuit.
Right.
It's got to be within bus distance.
Winter time in
Yeah,
Florida.
yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
What else? Is there anything we didn't cover about the Golden Girls? I think. Again, I think.
I'm curious. Like we talked about with different strokes, exactly what the layout of everything is in their house.
Yes.
And more that comes more from the pilot, I think. So there's definitely a living room area. There's a solarium in the background.
Yes.
And there's kitchen.
Yeah.
Living room and kitchen. Those are the main areas.
Right.
We see Blanche's bedroom.
Mm-hmm.
And in the pilot, for some reason, Dorothy and Rose are also in there getting ready. Maybe that's the only mirror in the house.
Yeah. I don't know if that's.
And they also talk about, they make some joke about Rose getting up to go to the bathroom a lot. And I inferred at least that Rose and Dorothy shared a room.
You know what? That's something that.
But then Sophia shows up. Clearly, she has somewhere to be.
Yeah, I think they've covered that before, but I thought so too. But I'm sure that they've covered that in the show, like whether Dorothy and Rose share. I think they do, don't they?
I think they might.
I think they
Something.
share a bed. Actually, I think.
Oh, they might. Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Boy, I would get laughed out of any Golden Girls convention not knowing basic facts like this.
Yeah.
But in fairness, I haven't watched the show really in years, even though it's sort of been ubiquitous.
Right.
I think right now, as we speak, it's on Hallmark Channel.
Okay.
It's not on Lifetime anymore. Lifetime's too good for the Golden Girls, apparently. And
They're going for that younger demographic now.
yeah, the
The
35 to 54, moving on from the 45 to 69 demographic.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're trying to lower their median age. So yeah, Hallmark has gladly accepted them, I guess. But
Yeah.
it's also on Hulu right now. The
Right.
whole run,
The whole run.
unedited, uncut.
Apparently commercial free.
Yeah, so far so good.
far.
So it's a good show to revisit. It's a very easy show to sit down. It's 20-some minutes. It's entertaining. It's not particularly challenging.
Yeah.
The show did get into some issues over the course of the year,
Yeah.
of 7 or 8 years, but it's definitely not a
Right.
mentally taxing experience.
No.
But I don't.
Well,
mean
and
that.
we should say, Coco is gay,
Yeah.
and they don't dance around that.
No, not at all.
Granted, Sophia is the one who says it, but
Yeah.
I think, but no one refutes that part of it. She's a little insulting too, but
Yeah, I think a lot of the the issues would come up. It would be like they'd bring this up, and Rose would be the one that didn't know what they were talking about, and they'd
Yeah.
kind of have to explain it to her.
right.
But yeah, the show definitely had progressive attitudes, I guess, about a lot of different things over
Yeah.
the course of the show.
I mean, Blanche thinks the idea of Nixon naked is unfathomable.
Yes,
That's progressive.
it is.
No. I'm guessing conservatives might have that same.
I think that I think you could go across the aisle with that sentiment.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, I think you could go across the aisle out of the rotunda and somewhere in the Potomac swamp with that idea. Please don't
Right.
mention that again.
Yeah.
Ugh, I kind of lost my train of thought. You think Richard Nixon watched the Golden Girls?
Until that episode, yeah.
Yeah, and then he was outraged.
I know, and he didn't even finish the episode.
Yeah, he turned it off
And
and
he was a Burt fan, I'm sure.
he probably dictated an angry letter to Henry Kissinger.
I didn't even get to see Burt.
Yeah,
God, no, I'm not gonna swear.
yeah. Probably had a profanity-laced letter he wrote to the head of NBC.
Yeah.
No, he would go straight to the president of General Electric.
Right. Yeah.
Who would own NBC at the time and complain and try to get them thrown off the air. Rue McClanahan was on his enemies list until his death because of this. What a shame. But you could see many other presidents actually probably enjoying the Golden Girls. Even today,
Yeah.
Jimmy Carter probably watches the Golden Girls.
I bet he does. Yeah.
Bill Clinton probably watches the Golden
Oh, yeah.
Girls. Yep. Okay, that leads me. We'll keep this PG rated. If you're Bill Clinton,
Yeah.
just say Bill Clinton in real life.
Yeah.
Rue McClanahan. You think anything happened there? The guy did a lot of campaigning in Florida.
And she's a noted liberal.
An activist. There were many times they could have been in the same.
I did not
place.
have relations with that actress.
Yeah. Maybe one of the other ones, but you wouldn't really be surprised, would you?
I don't want to say anything about Rue McClanahan.
Yeah. No. Oh, hey.
Yeah.
I'm not judging her like she judged
life.
those ladies at the evening in that
No.
episode.
Yeah. I was going to say, like, I thought you were going to ask me to choose who I thought Bill was the most into.
Well.
Like, I think Blanche actually
would it matter to Bill?
No, but I think that might have been not just because of her. I'm thinking of the character.
Right.
No,
Okay. Yes.
Her
thinking of,
sort of openness to this and her southernness, I think, might have made her less attractive in a way.
Really?
Like
too much of what he's familiar with.
Yeah.
Like the challenge, he would have been more challenged by Dorothy.
Yes.
Ah, yes.
Yeah.
He would have seen that as a challenge, because of her intellect.
Right.
So he would take a different way with her with the charm. He'd be talking about policy and education policy.
Mm-hmm.
His education bill. And, and Dorothy was not she was not unsusceptible to the charms of.
No. All you met her ex-husband.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of those episodes, I think, revolved around them almost rekindling their relationship.
Yeah, there was definitely something there. Yeah.
Clearly, the charms of Leslie Nielsen.
Yeah.
Although I saw a quote that B. Arthur didn't care for him.
B. Arthur
said he
didn't
was
care for
ridiculous.
Yeah, and
Right.
your point being is how I would respond to that.
I'm guessing the fart machine really didn't impress B. Arthur.
No. Well, yes, B. Arthur humor rooted in a much more sophisticated brand of.
Plus, with all those old people in the set, I mean,
maybe hit a little.
that
too
was
close
pretty.
to home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just another day.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's something else. Well, it's a rich universe, the Golden Girls universe, and one that I think I'll be continuing to revisit.
Yeah, and if you're just in the mood for a pretty joke-heavy sitcom, you can't go wrong here.
Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with a joke-heavy sitcom, and in many ways, I wish there were more of them these days.
Yeah, and I think the actresses are so good at it that like the jokes come across organically still.
Yes.
For the most part, yeah.
Yes.
And it's fairly character-based. I mean, Rose is not making quips about people.
Right.
Dorothy is, but that's who she is. She's a sardonic person.
Right.
And Sophia is because she's also a sardonic person.
Yes.
And, just untethered from politeness.
So this was something a little different. This episode, again, Season 2's Ladies of the Evening, one of the first episodes in Season 2, if not the first episode. But it's,
I think it was maybe the second.
Okay, right at the beginning. So, yes, I would give this I'd give this a recommendation. Sit down with a couple of slices of cheesecake. Sorry, I had to get a cheesecake reference
Right.
in. And
Apparently, B. Arthur hated cheesecake.
oh yeah?
Yeah.
So did they give her synthetic cheesecake?
I don't know. Maybe she just, moved it around on the plate a lot.
Didn't actually eat it?
Yeah. It might have all been fake. Or not. Because you're forcing actresses to eat a lot of cheese.
Yeah, cheesecake
Anyone.
is one of the most unhealthy desserts in the universe.
That's why I love it.
Yes.
But, yeah. Although, for this kind of sitcom, they probably weren't doing a lot of takes, so they maybe didn't have to eat a ton of it either.
Yeah. Well, there'd be worse things to have to eat than cheesecake.
Oh, I think. Yeah.
From NBC Catering or whatever.
Right. Yeah.
So, Golden Girls, we're both are thumbs up on this one, right?
Yeah.
And thumbs up on Burt, as always.
Also, thank you for being a friend.
Thank you, Mike.
Yeah.
This episode brought to you by the St. Olaf Courier-Dispatch, known for its investigative reporting. This episode also brought to you by the Burt Pack, a documentary decades in the making. This episode also brought to you by Friendship. Join us next time for another exciting episode of Battle of the Network Shows. Learn more, leave feedback, and suggest future episodes at battleofthenetworkshows.com. Follow us on Twitter at BATNet Shows, and like our Facebook page, facebook.com/Battle of the Network Shows.
Tonight. Really? You won't believe who's going to be there. Dom DeLuise.
Wow!
Lonnie Anderson.
Wow!
Charles Nelson Riley. 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 Charles Nelson Riley.
Which one's a slut?